Is mass immigration from poor countries to wealthy countries a good thing? Well, depends who you are. Immigration is possibly the only political issue that intertwines the richest countries in the world with the poorest countries in the world. Yet it operates actually more as a filter, diverting the inhumane and financial consequences for the common citizen to endure, while at the same time cutting the fiscal and political benefits out from it and plating them for the well-connected. A tale that isn't anything new. People have immigrated for new opportunities since prehistoric times. It's instinctual, actually, a trait tied to surviving through evolution. Look at animals even. Humpback whales swim over 8,000 kilometers to reach more nutrient-rich feeding areas. 1.3 million wildebeest travel over 1,000 miles across the Serengeti for food and water. And the bar-tailed godwit performs one of the longest non-stop migratory flights in the world without even stopping, flying thousands of miles in one single leg just to reach more food. Now, if you've ever watched any wildlife show, though, you know that these journeys don't come without a price. And not all of those wildebeest will make it through those crocodile-infested rivers. People immigrating face the dangers of never making it to their destination. People are no different. They rely on criminals and often gangs to help smuggle them across borders, mainly at night and mainly in dangerous conditions. We don't even know how many lives are lost each year at the hands of nature's elements, foul play, or accidental deaths. For example, just last week, a boat carrying over 50 people fleeing the country of Libya were completely capsized in the Mediterranean Sea, killing everyone on board, except for 2 women, who both lost their entire families in the process. Not to mention, notably, the agony of the actual process of enduring that event. These people, other than a baby laying in their mother's womb, are some of the most vulnerable people on the planet. Barely any supplies, little to no education, have no idea where they're going, are being led by criminals, often are carrying dependents of their own, and even if they reach their destination safely, they don't speak the language, don't know the culture, the laws, where to go, what to do, or what tomorrow even brings. It's like seeing a limping gazelle in the wild. The vultures, the lions, the cheetahs, and everything else looking for a meal that also comes with the least resistance start to come out. Employers appear out of thin air offering these people below minimum wage jobs, illegal jobs that are meant to exploit them down to their bone. They have no choice, though, often tricked into it, with a friendly, smiling face saying, "This is to help you." An American employer ensures that they're the first to capitalize on these people. An employment practice that unfortunately dates back to the beginning of this country's founding that has also been, yes, illegal the entire time. Another nod towards our country's moral demise as the open exploitation of the most vulnerable people in plain sight continues to rot our inner core. Now, the basic average U.S. citizen or native citizen of the migrating country into tries to get a job, and now there's an entire new market of people appearing out of nowhere and working in conditions that are far beneath what their actual financial circumstance would make any sense of for their immediate economic means when you consider the amount of labor and what they'd have to put in return for the job's compensation, since the job market has now drastically changed to adapt to having poor people willing to work longer with less rights for less money. This economic imbalance matches the scale of the amount of immigrants that enter a country. stack more people on top of one another without simultaneously adding on the same amount of required resources, such as housing and food, and that social ecosystem becomes a fiscally based mass casualty event. Rinse and repeat, year after year. And certain corners of the employment market have developed labor standards now that are impossible to keep up with any moral standard. The native population is confused as it read that everything that is going on is indeed illegal, which that in and of itself decreases the overall concept of laws and governance, with people now realizing that. And the last victim that suffers that nobody even thinks about or considers is the actual country that these people are migrating from. Immigration is when someone enters a country, but everyone forgets that there is another term called emigration, which is when someone leaves a country. It's a pretty simple concept. When a country continues to lose its own population, it becomes weaker, definitively weaker. Emigration will do that. I can't think of a country that loses potential doctors, engineers, and researchers and then tries to label them as a promising country. Samoa, Jamaica, and Eritrea are among the world's top nations who continue to lose the most skilled workers of their own country to emigration. Political instability is usually the highest factor in this, but not always. Look at India, who has its problems, but is in no way politically unstable like we would consider countries that actually are unstable. But its citizens still look at the United States and Western countries almost with like an obvious look of a potential destination, like, why wouldn't I go? I'm sure South Africa wishes it still had Elon Musk. I'm sure Germany wishes it kept Albert Einstein or Levi Strauss. Or Scotland had talked Andrew Carnegie into staying. Now imagine if Alexander Hamilton, a U.S. founding father, actually stayed in the Caribbean. This is what's called brain draining in the world of immigration, where top talent leaks out of its own country of origin and then flourishes elsewhere, leaving its homeland in the same state of sad affairs that the previous top talent had left in it as well. It's hard to consider global immigration as an unopposed winner, no matter what people of higher social status who tend to financially benefit themselves from the global debacle say. Sure, there are dreams that have been accomplished by a few people after they've immigrated and industries that have been changed because of it. Absolutely, you could tell just looking at the United States that way, aka the American dream. But if you consider the total cost, the human cost of rafting in shark-infested Cuba to Miami, or through the Sonoran Desert in heat exceeding 110 degrees from Mexico to Texas, or in the Darien Gap, which lasts between Colombia and Panama, which is a 60-mile roadless jungle, swamp, and mountain pass filled with violent gangs and extortion, where over 520,000 migrants tried crossing in 2023, face sexual violence and disease. If you take just these teeny tiny few examples and show the sheer sexual crimes alone, then add in the exploitation over the course of the last 100 years, it's tough to even try to build a case for it. The only people that seem to try and make a case for the poorest people in the world to continue attempting the world's most dangerous versions of Frogger just so happen to be the same people who personally financially benefit from it. People who, when sharing their political policies for the world, should not be taken seriously even for a second. Encouraging people to risk their own lives just to have the opportunity, the possibility, to be financially exploited by financial predators, all in a country where they are not even welcomed by the natives, is not virtuous. It's quite the opposite, actually. It's disguising yourself as a warrior for human causes, while in actual real life, practice, you're aiding in the mass exploitation of the most vulnerable populations on Earth. And in the 16th through the 19th centuries, we referred to this practice as the North Atlantic slave trade. Mass migration has always been about the most wealthiest people in the world exploiting the most needy in the world for unpaid labor. And profits sit at the end of that. It always has, and the signs show that it always will. The Statue of Liberty seems to be too big for the average supporter of this process to see the truth that lies on the other side of it.
This is unbelievable.
How we don't know more about this stuff is insane.
No one is talking about this.